Deep within the emerald heart of Mesoamerica, where the jungle canopy stretches like an endless green ocean, lie the silent, haunting ruins of a civilization that once touched the stars. They were masters of mathematics, architects of colossal cities, and astronomers who charted the cosmos with breathtaking precision. Then, almost as mysteriously as they rose, their grand urban centers fell silent. This is the enduring enigma of the Maya, a lost civilization, waiting for us to uncover its secrets. The Maya were not a single unified empire, but a vibrant tapestry of independent city-states, each with its own kings, its own alliances, and its own bitter rivalries. Their influence stretched across what we now know as southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, and Honduras. For centuries, their cities pulsed with life, boasting monumental pyramids that scraped the sky, intricate calendars that tracked time with uncanny accuracy, and a unique hieroglyphic writing system that recorded their triumphs and their beliefs. But here's the profound question that has captivated historians and archaeologists for generations. How did such an advanced civilization, one that supported millions of people across hundreds of magnificent cities, come to abandon its urban heartlands? The classic Maya collapse, as it's known, remains one of archaeology's most perplexing unsolved mysteries. A slow, complex decline that utterly reshaped the landscape of Mesoamerica. In this journey through time, we will peel back the layers of jungle and history. We'll begin with the Maya's earliest, humble roots as simple agricultural communities. Then, we'll ascend to their golden age, a period of unparalleled intellectual and artistic innovation, where their understanding of the universe rivaled, and in some cases surpassed, that of contemporary old-world civilizations. Following this zenith, we'll confront the various, interconnected factors that contributed to their decline, examining the theories that attempt to explain this profound societal shift. And finally, we will explore their enduring legacy in the modern world, celebrating the resilience of the Maya people and the continuous efforts to unveil new secrets through cutting-edge archaeological discoveries. The story of the Maya civilization doesn't begin with grand stone cities, but with the subtle, revolutionary shifts of early human settlement and agricultural ingenuity. This formative period, known as the pre-classic era, was the fertile ground from which all their monumental achievements would eventually sprout. Imagine, if you will, small groups of people, perhaps 4,600 years ago, in what is now Belize. The earliest traces of Maya occupation, carbon dated to around 2600 BC at a site called Quello, whisper of an ancient presence. By approximately 1800 BC, these nomadic hunter-gatherers began to settle down, establishing permanent communities along the Pacific coast in the Soconusco region. This wasn't just a change of address. It was a fundamental transformation from a transient existence to an agrarian society. The Maya began cultivating the staple crops that would become the very bedrock of their diet and culture: maize, beans, squash, and chili pepper. Maize, or corn, was more than just food. It was life itself. It became central to their religious beliefs and mythology, with a prominent maize god symbolizing fertility and abundance. This transition to a settled agricultural way of life, often using the ingenious milpa system, where multiple crops were grown together to maintain soil fertility, was the foundational element for all subsequent Maya societal complexity. A stable and reliable food supply allowed populations to boom, and with surplus food, not everyone had to be a farmer. Individuals could specialize as artisans, as priests, as warriors. This specialization fueled the development of complex social structures, hierarchical leadership, and eventually, the undertaking of those monumental construction projects we marvel at today. Without this fundamental agricultural foundation, the remarkable rise of Maya civilization, with its grand cities and intellectual achievements, would simply not have been possible. Even the introduction of pottery and fired clay figurines during this period hints at a developing sedentary lifestyle and early artistic expression. As farming techniques grew more sophisticated and populations swelled, those small villages began to coalesce, to grow, to transform into true cities. Nakbi, nestled in the Petén department of Guatemala, stands out as the earliest well-documented city in the Maya lowlands, boasting substantial structures dating back to approximately 750 BC. By 500 BC, these nascent urban centers were already showcasing monumental architecture, including large temples adorned with elaborate stucco facades. Nakbi, for instance, already featured monumental masonry, sculpted monuments, and causeways, all elements that would define the later, more famous Maya cities. Even the northern lowlands of Yucatan saw widespread settlement during this middle pre-classic period. A truly significant development during this era was the appearance of carved stone stelae. By around 400 BC, early Maya rulers began raising these impressive stone slabs, often adorned with their portraits, to celebrate their achievements and publicly validate their right to rule. The very existence of monumental architecture and stelae with ruler portraits clearly signals a profound shift, the consolidation of power, and the formation of a distinct elite class. Constructing such large temples and monuments demanded immense coordinated labor and resources, a feat only achievable by a centralized authority capable of commanding such efforts. These stelae served as powerful public declarations of a ruler's legitimacy and accomplishments, marking a profound shift from more egalitarian village structures to hierarchical societies with entrenched leadership. This visible manifestation of early state formation laid the groundwork for the complex political systems of the classic period. The early Maya civilization didn't develop in a vacuum. It was part of a dynamic and interconnected Mesoamerican cultural sphere. The Olmec culture, often recognized as the first true civilization in the Americas, centered around its capital of La Venta in modern-day Tabasco, emerged geographically close to early Maya centers. This proximity led to prolonged contact that profoundly influenced early Maya society and artistic expression. The shared features between the Olmec and later Maya cultures are striking. Extensive jaguar worship, a diet primarily based on maize, and the use of the cacao plant, from which chocolate is derived. The influence even extended to language, with several words such as ajao, meaning Lord, and cacao, which became our English words cacao and chocolate, being borrowed from a Mixtec-Zoquian language spoken by the Olmec into Mayan. The fact that these borrowings relate to prestige concepts and high culture suggests that the middle pre-classic Maya were deeply impressed by their more established northwestern neighbors. The artistic similarities, particularly seen in late or terminal pre-classic murals at San Bartolo, further underscore the profound relationship between these two civilizations over hundreds of years. This demonstrates that Maya civilization actively borrowed and adapted ideas from other cultures, highlighting the importance of inter-civilizational exchange in shaping complex societies and challenging any notion of purely internal development. It also sets a precedent for later external influences, like the powerful Teotihuacan. The late pre-classic period witnessed a remarkable cultural florescence, a true blossoming marked by the growth of truly enormous cities. El Mirador in the lowlands expanded to cover approximately 16 square kilometers, featuring paved avenues, massive triadic pyramid complexes, stelae, and altars erected in its plazas. It's widely considered one of the first capital cities of the Maya civilization. Tikal, later to become one of the most important classic period cities, was already a significant urban center by around 350 BC, though it did not yet match El Mirador in scale. In the highlands, Kaminalhuyu emerged as a principal center, strategically controlling crucial trade routes for valuable goods such as jade, obsidian, and cinnabar. During this period of intense development, a sophisticated hieroglyphic script was already in use in Petén by the 3rd century BC, pushing back the origin of Maya writing by several centuries. Furthermore, the Maya independently developed the concept of the number 0 during this era. This innovation was crucial for architects and priests in making precise calculations for astronomical observations and monumental construction. However, this period of flourishing development was not without its challenges. The late pre-classic cultural florescence experienced a significant downturn, culminating in a collapse in the 1st century AD, leading to the abandonment of many of the great Maya cities of that epoch. The cause of this early decline remains unknown, but the fact that many major cities were abandoned indicates a recurring pattern of societal upheaval and abandonment in Maya history, not just a singular event confined to the classic period. Understanding this earlier period of decline might offer valuable clues or parallels to the later, more famous classic Maya collapse, suggesting underlying environmental or social vulnerabilities that persisted across different eras. This adds a crucial layer of nuance to the rise and fall narrative, demonstrating that the Maya experienced multiple cycles of growth and contraction, a testament to both their adaptability and their inherent vulnerabilities. The classic period, stretching from approximately 250 CE to 900 CE, represents the absolute zenith of Maya civilization. This was an era defined by an explosion of monumental achievements, the development of complex political systems, and unparalleled intellectual advancements that continue to astound researchers today. It was a time when the Maya population numbered in the millions, with many cities housing between 50,000 and 120,000 people. This period is largely defined by the widespread erection of sculpted monuments bearing long count calendar dates, signifying a peak in large-scale construction, urban development, and significant intellectual and artistic expression, particularly in the southern lowland regions. The political landscape of the classic period Maya world has often been likened to that of Renaissance Italy or classical Greece, a dynamic, often brutal network of independent city-states engaged in intricate alliances and bitter enmities. In the Maya lowlands, two colossal rival city-states, Tikal and Calakmul, emerged as the central players. Both established extensive systems of allies and vassals, strategically maneuvering their alliance networks against each other, leading to alternating periods of prosperity and decline throughout the Classic period. It was a constant, high-stakes game of power. A pivotal, almost cinematic moment in this political drama occurred in 378 AD. The great metropolis of Teotihuacan, from the distant Valley of Mexico, decisively intervened in Maya dynastic politics. This intervention, led by a formidable figure named Siaj Kakak, or Born of Fire, saw his arrival at Tikal in early 378 AD. The king of Tikal, Chaktak Ichak I, died on the very same day, strongly suggesting a violent takeover. A year later, Siaj Kakak oversaw the installation of a new king, Yaxnun Ahin I, initiating a period of political dominance that made Tikal the most powerful city in the central lowlands. This direct, violent intervention by Teotihuacan at Tikal reveals that Maya city-states were not isolated entities. Instead, they were deeply integrated into a wider Mesoamerican geopolitical sphere, where external powers could directly shape Maya political destinies, influencing dynastic succession and regional dominance. This challenges any perception of purely internal development and highlights how significant foreign interference could occur even during their golden age. The shifting allegiances and intense rivalries continued to define the era. In 629 AD, Balaj Khan Quawil, a son of Tikal's king, was sent to establish a new city at Dos Pilas, seemingly as an outpost to extend Tikal's power. However, in 648 AD, he was captured by King Uknumchin II of Calakmul, who then reinstated him as his vassal. Balaj Khan Quawil subsequently became a loyal ally of Calakmul, illustrating the fluid and often brutal nature of these political relationships. In the southeast, Copan, another major city, was founded in 426 AD by Kinich Yax Kukmo, who also had strong connections with Teotihuacan. Copan reached its cultural and artistic peak under Waxaclajun Uba Kawil. His reign, however, ended abruptly in 738 AD when he was captured and publicly decapitated in a ritual by his vassal, King Kaktiliu Chanyopat of Corigua. This coup was likely supported by Calakmul, aiming to weaken Tikal's powerful allies. Palenque and Yaxchilan also stood as powerful cities in the Usumacinta region, each with their own intricate histories of power and conflict. Maya society was characterized by a sharp division between the elite and commoners, a stratification that began as early as the early pre-classic period. As the population expanded, society became increasingly specialized, leading to a more complex political organization. By the late Classic period, with enormous population growth and hundreds of interconnected cities, the wealthy segment of society significantly expanded, and there is evidence suggesting the emergence of a middle class, including artisans, lower-ranking priests, officials, merchants, and soldiers. At the apex of this society was the king, the supreme ruler, whose classic Maya rule centered on the concept of the divine king, the Kuhul Ajau. This ruler held a semi-divine status, serving as a mediator between the mortal and supernatural realms. Kingship was typically patrilineal, with power usually passing to the eldest son, though queens could rule in rare instances to prevent dynastic extinction. A prospective king was expected to be a successful war leader, demonstrating his prowess by taking captives. The enthronement ceremony for a new king was elaborate, involving sitting on a jaguar skin cushion, human sacrifice, and receiving symbols of royal power, such as a jade-adorned headband and a quetzal feather headdress. Below the king, the royal court was a dynamic political institution, not bureaucratic, but hierarchical, with officials sponsored by higher-ranking aristocrats. This included a powerful nobility and priesthood. Priests, in particular, held significant power, responsible for conducting ceremonies and meticulously maintaining the complex Maya calendar system. The vast majority of the population, estimated to be over 90%, comprised commoners. Their daily lives revolved around arduous work, primarily as farmers cultivating maize, beans, squash, chili pepper, and cacao. Men typically worked in the fields, while women managed household tasks, including cooking, weaving, and childcare. Commoners lived in simpler, thatched roof huts, often clustered outside the city centers near their farms. They were also artisans, laborers, and servants who supported the ruling elite. Commoners paid taxes to the elite in staple goods such as maize, flour, and game. Importantly, while the society was sharply divided, the ability for commoners to improve their status through military achievements suggests a degree of social mobility, albeit limited. This would have provided a practical mechanism for social advancement, offering an incentive for commoners to participate in warfare and contribute to the state, potentially helping to maintain stability by providing a path for ambition, even if for a select few. This adds a layer of complexity to the seemingly rigid social hierarchy. Daily life for the Maya revolved intrinsically around agriculture, religious practices, and the bustling urban centers. Farmers, the backbone of Maya society, developed sophisticated techniques for managing water and soil, including terracing to cultivate hillsides, raised fields to improve drainage in lowlands, and extensive irrigation systems. Beyond staple crops, they grew cacao, cotton, and various fruits and vegetables, like chili peppers, tomatoes, and avocados. Cacao was particularly prized. Consumed as a drink by the elite, its beans were also used as a form of currency, reflecting their high value in the Maya economy. Trade played a crucial role in the development and sustenance of Maya civilization, with extensive networks connecting cities and regions across Mesoamerica and beyond. Merchants, some from the elite class, traveled by foot and canoe, exchanging goods over long distances. Important trade goods included salt, obsidian, volcanic glass used for tools and weapons, jade, feathers, and the aforementioned cacao. Archaeological evidence, such as Panamanian gold found in the sacred cenote of Chichen Itza, indicates the vast reach of these trade networks. Some cities were even linked by straight limestone causeways, known as sakbiub, whose exact function, commercial, political, or religious, is still debated. The extensive trade networks and the use of cacao as currency highlight a highly integrated and interdependent economy, not merely a collection of isolated city-states. This interdependence meant that disruptions in trade routes, which would later be a factor in the collapse theories, would have had far-reaching consequences across the entire civilization. The classic Maya period was a time of extraordinary intellectual flourishing, marked by advancements in mathematics, astronomy, and writing that were deeply interconnected and served practical, religious, and political functions. The Maya developed a sophisticated base 20 or vigesimal numeral system, common among Mesoamerican civilizations. They adopted a bar and dot counting system by the late pre-classic period, where a single dot represented 1 and a bar represented 5. But here's the truly revolutionary part. They added a symbol for 0, possibly the earliest explicit use of 0 worldwide in written records. The earliest explicit use of 0 on monuments dates to 357 AD. This innovation enabled more complex mathematical calculations and positional notation, which was vital for their advanced astronomical and architectural endeavors. Imagine building colossal pyramids and charting celestial movements without a concept of 0. It's almost impossible. The classic Maya developed some of the most accurate pre-telescope astronomy in the world. They meticulously observed celestial bodies not only for divination and astrological purposes, but also for practical applications, such as aiding crop planting and harvesting. Their estimate of the length of the synodic month was more accurate than Ptolemy's, and their calculation of the tropical solar year was more precise than that of the Spanish when they first arrived. They measured the 584-day Venus cycle with an astonishing error of only 2 hours. To facilitate these observations, they built sophisticated astronomical observatories, such as El Caracol at Chichen Itza, which was specifically aligned to follow the path of Venus through the year and mark solstices. The Maya writing system is considered one of the most significant achievements of pre-Columbian Americas, being the most sophisticated and highly developed of over a dozen Mesoamerican systems. It is a logosyllabic system, combining phonetic signs representing syllables with logograms representing entire words. Over 10,000 individual texts have been recovered, primarily inscribed on stone monuments, lintels, stelae, and ceramic vessels. The Maya also produced texts on bark paper codices, though tragically, only 4 survive today. This writing system allowed them to record historical events, astronomical observations, and religious beliefs, preserving their knowledge and history for posterity. The Maya calendar system, originating in the pre-classic period, reached its peak sophistication during the Classic era and was deeply intertwined with their ritual and religious practices. They utilized a non-repeating long count calendar to track historical events over vast periods, based on a linear day count starting from a mythical creation date. This allowed for the recording of precise dates and a chronology of events. In addition, they employed 3 interlocking cycles: the 260-day Tzolkin, a sacred calendar used for religious ceremonies and divination, and the 365-day Hab, a solar calendar used for agricultural and civil purposes. These 2 calendars combined to create a 52-year calendar round. They also inscribed a lengthier 819-day calendar on many religious temples, likely coinciding with important religious days. The Mayas' advancements in mathematics, astronomy, and writing were not isolated disciplines. They were profoundly interconnected and served practical, religious, and political functions. For instance, the concept of 0 enabled complex calculations essential for astronomy and monumental architecture. Astronomical observations were used to guide crop planting, predict celestial events for divination, and determine the timing of religious ceremonies. This demonstrates a holistic approach to knowledge, where science, religion, and governance were seamlessly integrated, reinforcing the power and legitimacy of the elite who controlled and interpreted this sophisticated knowledge. Classic Maya cities were not formally planned, but expanded organically and irregularly, with new structures often superimposed on older ones. City centers typically featured sacred precincts, sometimes walled off from residential areas, containing pyramid temples and other monumental architecture used for elite activities. Plazas, sacred ball courts, marketplaces, and schools were also common features. Causeways, known as sakbiub, often connected the city center to outlying areas. Key construction types included palaces and acropolis. These were elite residential compounds, typically multi-room structures built on platforms, often arranged around courtyards. Some featured impressive roof combs and were equipped with water supplies and even sweat baths. Pyramids and temples, referred to as kuna, God's house. Temples were built on platforms, frequently pyramids. Early temples were thatched huts, evolving into impressive stone structures, featuring the distinctive corbel arches and towering roof combs. They typically contained 1 to 3 rooms dedicated to deities or deified ancestors. Think of the iconic Tikal Temple or the refined Palenque Palace. Eye groups and observatories. These were specific arrangements of temples, named after Group E at Waksaktun, used to precisely mark solstices and equinoxes. They typically involved a radial pyramid on the west, facing 3 smaller temples to the east, allowing observation of the sun's rise over these structures on key astronomical dates. Many other Maya buildings were also aligned with celestial bodies like Venus and constellations. Triadic pyramids. First appearing in the pre-classic, these consisted of a dominant structure flanked by 2 smaller inward-facing buildings, all situated on a single basal platform. They were a predominant architectural form in the Peten region during the late pre-classic and continued into the classic period. Ball courts, a distinctive pan-Mesoamerican architectural form. Most Maya ball courts date to the classic period. They had a characteristic I shape with a central playing area and 2 transverse end zones. Ball games played in these courts were often part of religious ceremonies, with the losers sometimes sacrificed to the gods. Maya art primarily depicted the elite and their world, crafted from both perishable and non-perishable materials. It is unique in ancient Americas for its narrative text and diverse regional styles, with the finest surviving art dating to the late classic period. The Maya favored green or blue-green colors, highly valuing apple green jade and other greenstones. They sculpted intricate artifacts from wood, jade, obsidian, and ceramics. Stone sculpture, possibly evolving from wood, was widespread, often paired with altars. Stucco was extensively used for architectural facades. Built up with small stones and coated with brightly painted stucco. Rich polychrome murals dating to 300 to 200 BC have been found at San Bartolo, while some of the best preserved murals include late classic paintings at Bonampak. Ceramics are the most commonly surviving art form, built by coiling clay, unglazed but burnished, and painted with clay slips. Fine ceramic figurines from Jaina Island and Ick-style polychrome vessels from Motul de San Jose depict courtly life and rituals. Warfare was a pervasive and significant aspect of the Maya world, launched for various reasons, including control of trade routes and tribute, raids for captives, and the complete destruction of enemy states. While detailed information about Maya military organization, logistics, or training remains limited, depictions in classic period Maya art and mentions in hieroglyphic inscriptions attest to its prevalence. Though these records rarely detail the specific causes or forms of war. In the 8th and 9th centuries, particularly intense warfare contributed to the collapse of kingdoms in the Petexbatun region of western Peten. The rapid abandonment of Aguateca by its inhabitants offers a rare glimpse into Maya weaponry in situ. Aguateca was attacked by unknown enemies around 810 AD, who breached its defenses and burned the royal palace. The city's elite either fled or were captured, never returning for their abandoned property, and peripheral inhabitants soon left. This event exemplifies intensive warfare aimed at eliminating a Maya state rather than merely subjugating it. Research at Aguateca suggests that classic period warriors were primarily members of the elite. From the pre-classic period, a Maya ruler was expected to be a distinguished war leader, often depicted with trophy heads on his belt. In the classic period, while trophy heads no longer appeared on the king's belt, until the end of the post-classic period, Maya kings continued to lead as war captains. Classic Maya inscriptions indicate that defeated kings could be captured, tortured, and sacrificed. A notable example is the 738 AD event where King Coctiliu Chanyopat of Quirigua captured his overlord, Waxaclajun Uba Kawil of Copan, and ritually decapitated him days later. The impact of a successful military campaign on a defeated polity varied significantly. Some cities were sacked and never resettled, as seen with Aguateca. In other instances, victors seized defeated rulers, their families, and even their patron gods. Captured nobles and their families might be imprisoned or sacrificed. At the least severe end, the defeated polity would be compelled to pay tribute to the victor. The Maya, like other Mesoamerican cultures, held a profound belief in a supernatural realm inhabited by powerful deities who required placation through offerings and elaborate rituals. Central to Maya religious practice was the worship of deceased ancestors, who were believed to intercede for their living descendants with the supernatural realm. Early intermediaries were shamans, and Maya rituals sometimes included hallucinogens, likely from water lilies, for Chilan, oracular priests. As the civilization developed, the ruling elite codified the Maya worldview into religious cults that served to justify and reinforce their rule. In the late pre-classic, this culminated in the divine king, the Kuhul Ajau, holding ultimate political and religious power. The Maya viewed the cosmos as highly structured, comprising 13 levels in the heavens and 9 in the underworld, with the mortal world situated in between. Each level and each of the 4 cardinal directions, north, east, south, west, was associated with a different color and specific deities. Major deities often had aspects linked to these directions and colors, as well as a dual day-night, life-death aspect. Maya households typically buried their dead under floors with offerings reflecting the family's social status, believing the deceased could act as protective ancestors. Maya lineages were patrilineal, emphasizing the worship of prominent male ancestors, often through household shrines. As society evolved and the elite gained power, these royal household shrines transformed into the great pyramids that housed ancestral tombs. Belief in supernatural forces permeated all aspects of Maya life, from daily activities and trade to politics and elite pursuits. Maya deities governed both the visible and invisible aspects of the world. The Maya priesthood was an exclusive group drawn from the elite. By the early classic, they meticulously recorded complex ritual information in hieroglyphic books, including astronomical observations, calendrical cycles, history, and mythology. Priests performed public ceremonies involving feasting, bloodletting, incense burning, music, ritual dance, and at times, human sacrifice. During the classic period, the Maya ruler himself served as the high priest and was considered the direct link between mortals and the gods. Among commoners, shamanism likely continued alongside the state religion. The deep intertwining of religion, astronomy, and political power was a powerful mechanism for societal cohesion and elite control. Rulers were seen as divine mediators, their authority bolstered by their perceived connection to the gods. Priests, who were part of the nobility, controlled the calendar and rituals, which were meticulously synchronized with celestial events. This specialized knowledge, held and interpreted by the elite, justified their rule and ensured public participation in elaborate ceremonies, thereby reinforcing the social order. When environmental factors, such as prolonged drought, impacted the efficacy of rain gods or agricultural cycles, it would directly undermine the legitimacy of the ruling class, potentially leading to social unrest and political instability. Blood was considered potent nourishment for Maya deities, and the sacrifice of a living creature was regarded as a powerful blood offering. Human sacrifice was the ultimate blood offering and often served as the culmination of important Maya rituals. Generally, only high-status prisoners of war were sacrificed, with lower-status captives typically used for labor. Important rituals, such as dedicating major building projects or enthroning a new ruler, often required a human offering. The sacrifice of an enemy king was considered the most prized offering, frequently involving decapitation, perhaps reenacting the Maya maize god's decapitation by death gods. Decapitation sacrifice is depicted in classic period Maya art, sometimes occurring after torture. Another decapitation myth is recounted in the Popol Vuh, where the hero twins, playing a ball game against underworld gods, achieved victory but had one twin from each pair decapitated by their opponents. During the post-classic period, heart extraction became the most common form of human sacrifice, influenced by Aztec rites, usually performed in a temple courtyard or on a pyramid summit. The Maya world was populated by a diverse pantheon of deities, supernatural entities, and sacred forces. Their interpretation of deities was intricately tied to the calendar, astronomy, and cosmology, with a deity's importance, characteristics, and associations varying with celestial movements. Priestly interpretation of astronomical records and sacred books was crucial for understanding which deity needed propitiation, when ceremony should be performed, and what offerings were appropriate. Each deity had 4 manifestations, linked to cardinal directions and colors, along with a dual day-night, life-death aspect. Prominent deities included Itzamna, often considered the creator god, embodying the cosmos, and also serving as a sun god. Kinich Ahau, the day sun, was one of his aspects, and Maya kings often identified with him. Itzamna also had a night sun aspect, the night jaguar, representing the sun's journey through the underworld. The four Pawatuns supported the corners of the mortal realm, with the Bakabs performing a similar function in the heavens. The four Chaks were powerful storm gods, controlling thunder, lightning, and rain, crucial for agricultural success. Other important deities included the moon goddess Ix-Chel, the maize god, and the hero twins. Like other Mesoamerican cultures, the Maya worshipped feathered serpent deities, which became more prominent in the post-classic, such as Kukulkan in Yucatan and Cucumats among the Quiche. The classic Maya collapse, occurring during the terminal classic period, roughly 800 to 925 CE, remains one of the most profound and perplexing enigmas in archaeology. This period witnessed the dramatic abandonment of many of the great cities in the southern lowlands. Once vibrant centers of population, power, and intellectual achievement, it wasn't a sudden cataclysmic event, like a meteor strike or a single devastating plague. Instead, it was a slow, agonizing process of decline that unfolded over approximately 150 years, from around 760 CE to 910 CE. And here's a crucial point. While the southern cities experienced this profound social and demographic catastrophe, it's important to note that some northern Maya cities, and those in the Gulf Coast and central highlands of Mexico, actually continued to prosper. This indicates a significant shift in power and population centers, rather than a complete disappearance of Maya culture. Historians and archaeologists generally agree that no single factor was solely responsible for the classic Maya collapse. Instead, a complex interplay of interconnected factors likely contributed to the decline, creating a systemic breakdown that the civilization could no longer withstand. It was a perfect storm, brewing for centuries. One prominent theory points to the immense strain placed on the environment by an ever-growing population. Archaeological evidence suggests that Maya cities and their surrounding settlements were far more heavily populated than previously imagined, putting an unbearable burden on their agricultural production capabilities. This increasing population density likely led the Maya to deforest vast areas, clearing land for agriculture, felling trees for construction, and burning wood for fuel. This, in turn, resulted in severe soil erosion. The period preceding the collapse is characterized by the overexploitation of natural resources, particularly land, forests, and water. A telling piece of evidence supporting this theory is a curious change in the type of wood used in Maya buildings. Before the 740s CE, sapodilla wood was preferred for lintels, but it was later replaced by the inferior wood of the smaller logwood tree, suggesting a depletion of the sapodilla supply. This chain of events, overpopulation leading to increased demand for resources, which in turn caused deforestation, soil erosion, and resource depletion, created a clear environmental feedback loop, contributing to the collapse. The reduced agricultural output and subsequent food scarcity would have placed immense pressure on the society, making it highly vulnerable to other external stressors. Imagine a society constantly struggling to feed itself, its very foundation eroding beneath its feet. Strong scientific evidence, particularly from paleoclimatological studies, indicates that the Yucatan Peninsula and Petén Basin areas experienced a prolonged series of severe droughts, or megadroughts, between approximately 800 and 1050 CE. These droughts would have caused a significant decline in agricultural fertility, as regular seasonal droughts dried up surface waters and deprived vegetation and forest cover, leading to further soil erosion. It is important to acknowledge that not all cities were equally affected by these droughts, as some lakes and rivers did not completely dry up. For regions that suffered severe water shortages, the lack of rain and repeated crop failures would have had profound societal consequences. The lower classes, comprising over 90% of the population, and primarily farmers, would have faced starvation and immense hardship. This could have led to widespread rebellions by commoners or non-ruling elites against the ruling class. The ruling class, who were seen as divine mediators and protectors of society, particularly as intermediaries with powerful rain gods like Chak, would have struggled to justify their role and maintain their legitimacy under such dire conditions. The core belief system tied the rulers to divine favor, especially regarding natural phenomena like rain. If the rain god Chak failed to deliver rain due to drought, the divine legitimacy of the rulers would be fundamentally undermined. This breakdown of the social contract would inevitably lead to increased social unrest and potentially outright revolt from the commoners who bore the brunt of crop failures, directly linking environmental stress to political instability and social disorder. While warfare was an inherent part of Maya culture throughout its history, its intensity and scale increased dramatically in the period leading up to the collapse. Cities began to construct fortifications, a clear indication of a more precarious and dangerous living environment. The objectives of warfare also shifted. Previously, conflicts were often symbolic, with defeats resulting in the capture of only a few important figures. However, in the late Classic period, war became far more destructive, with a priority placed on the conquest of territory and the capture of large numbers of sacrificial victims. This shift might have been driven by a desperate need to increase agricultural production, acquire dwindling resources, or to appease the gods in an attempt to restore stability. The presence of numerous arrowheads at certain sites further suggests that life in the cities became increasingly dangerous. From the mid to late 8th century, relations between Maya city-states worsened significantly. There is also evidence of royal dynasties and elites disappearing without a trace, suggesting a profound breakdown in political leadership. A crucial indicator of this decline is the cessation of new building construction and monumental dating after approximately 830 CE to 910 CE in the central Maya area. This signifies a halt in monumental construction and record-keeping, activities deeply tied to political stability and the legitimacy of rulers. This intensification of warfare, likely exacerbated by resource scarcity linked to environmental degradation and drought, would have further destabilized crucial trade routes and political alliances, creating a destructive feedback loop that accelerated the overall decline. If resources became scarce due to environmental factors, city-states would naturally engage in conflict over dwindling supplies. This increased warfare would disrupt vital trade networks that tied the cities together, leading to economic collapse. The disappearance of elites and the cessation of monumental building are direct indicators of political breakdown, demonstrating how environmental and social pressures could directly fuel political and military chaos. Disease pandemics were an early theory proposed for the classic Maya collapse. However, this theory is considered less likely as the primary cause, given that the collapse was a slow process of decline over 150 years, rather than a sudden, acute event. Populations typically tend to recover relatively quickly from widespread pandemics. Furthermore, the Maya lowlands were never significantly repopulated after the collapse, which would be unusual if disease were the sole factor. Nevertheless, disease could have been a significant contributing factor, weakening the population's resilience and ability to recover from other stressors. Some experts suggest that the Maya may have encountered endemic infections related to American trypanosomiasis, ascaris, and enteropathogens causing acute diarrheal illness. The very development of their civilization, with its dense agricultural settlements, could have inadvertently created disturbed environments where parasitic and pathogen-carrying insects thrive. Among the listed pathogens, those causing acute diarrheal illnesses would have been particularly devastating, striking victims at an early age and hampering nutritional health and child development. This would have led to a weakened, less productive population, making them more susceptible to the impacts of drought, warfare, and resource scarcity, thereby hindering recovery and exacerbating the overall collapse. It paints a picture of a civilization facing a death by 1,000 cuts, rather than a single fatal blow. In conclusion, the classic Maya collapse was not the result of a single isolated event or factor. Instead, it was a complex systemic breakdown demonstrating the inherent fragility of highly specialized and interconnected societies when faced with multiple compounding stressors. The most plausible explanation involves a complex interplay of intensified warfare, social disorder stemming from overpopulation and resource scarcity, and unfavorable climatic conditions such as prolonged drought. These factors likely varied in their timing, degree, and sequence depending on the specific location within the southern Maya lowlands. The fact that multiple theories, environmental, climatic, social, political, and military, are all supported by evidence indicates that the Maya system had multiple points of vulnerability. When these stressors converged, for example, drought leading to agricultural failure, which in turn led to social unrest, which then fueled intensified warfare over dwindling resources, the system could no longer sustain itself. The classic Maya collapse did not signify the complete end of Maya civilization. Instead, it marked a profound transformation and a significant shift in population and political power away from the southern lowlands. The post-classic period, spanning from approximately 950 AD to 1539 AD, saw the northern Yucatan prosper, albeit with different artistic and architectural styles, and a reduced emphasis on monumental hieroglyphic inscriptions. Following the classic period, the Maya region lacked a single dominant power for a time. Chichen Itza, a prominent city in the northern lowlands, experienced its own dramatic decline in the 11th century, a downturn that some scholars consider the final phase of the classic period collapse. After its decline, the city of Mayapan rose to prominence in the 12th century, becoming the new dominant power in the region. However, Mayapan too faced its own period of instability and was eventually abandoned around 1448. This abandonment was triggered by a combination of political, social, and environmental instability, a pattern that starkly mirrored the classic period collapse in the southern Maya region. The fall of Mayapan led to a prolonged period of warfare, disease, and natural disasters across the Yucatan Peninsula. A turbulent era that only concluded shortly before the arrival of the Spanish in 1511. The abandonment of Mayapan, due to a similar mix of political, social, and environmental instability, suggests that the underlying vulnerabilities of Maya civilization persisted, even with shifts in power centers. This indicates that despite adapting and moving to new regions, the Maya continued to face systemic challenges, such as resource management issues, internal conflicts, and environmental sensitivities that could lead to societal fragmentation and the abandonment of major urban centers. It reinforces the idea of recurring cycles of rise and fall, rather than a singular, isolated collapse event. The arrival of the Spanish conquistadors marked a new and devastating chapter in Maya history, ultimately leading to the subjugation of their remaining independent kingdoms. The first direct contact between the Maya and Europeans occurred in 1511, when a Spanish caravel was shipwrecked in the Caribbean, and some survivors landed on the Yucatan coast. They were captured by a Maya lord, and most were tragically sacrificed, though two managed to escape. From 1517 to 1519, 3 separate Spanish expeditions explored the Yucatan coast, engaging in battles with the Maya inhabitants. After the fall of the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, in 1521, Hernán Cortés dispatched Pedro de Alvarado to Guatemala in 1523. Alvarado's force, comprising cavalry, infantry, cannons, and thousands of allied warriors from central Mexico, proved formidable. The Quiche capital, Cumarcaj, fell to Alvarado in 1524. The Spanish were initially invited as allies into Ixmiche, the capital of the Cochiquel Maya. However, relations quickly deteriorated due to excessive Spanish demands for gold, prompting the Cochiquel to abandon their city. The Mam Maya capital, Zaculeo, also fell in 1525. In the Yucatan, Francisco de Montejo and his son launched a series of campaigns against the various Maya polities starting in 1527, eventually completing the conquest of the northern part of the peninsula by 1546. For over a century, only the Maya kingdoms of the Petén Basin managed to retain their independence. However, in 1697, Martín de Ursúa launched an assault on the Itza capital, Noch Petén, and the last independent Maya city finally fell to the Spanish, marking the end of an era of self-governance. At the time of the Spanish conquest, the Maya possessed a rich intellectual tradition, including many books known as codices, which were meticulously painted on folding bark cloth. These codices contained invaluable records of their history, astronomical observations, divination practices, rituals, and mythology. Tragically, the Spanish conquistadors and Catholic priests systematically destroyed these precious manuscripts wherever they found them, viewing them as pagan works that hindered conversion. The most infamous example of this cultural annihilation was the burning of a vast number of these codices in Mani, Yucatan, by Bishop Diego de Landa in July 1562. This act represents an immeasurable loss of indigenous knowledge, history, and cultural memory. making our understanding of the Maya civilization inherently incomplete. Today, only 4 Maya codices are known to exist: the Dresden, Madrid, Paris, and Grolier codices. These surviving fragments, though few, are invaluable for deciphering Maya astronomy, rituals, and historical narratives, offering a glimpse into the vast libraries that were lost. The deliberate destruction of these records was not just an act of political conquest, but a profound act of cultural annihilation. This means that much of what is known about the Maya today comes from archaeological inference and the few surviving texts, significantly limiting direct access to their own narratives and perspectives. This highlights the destructive impact of colonialism beyond political subjugation, emphasizing the fragility of cultural heritage in the face of conquest. Despite the devastating impact of the Spanish conquest, which stripped away many of the defining features of their sophisticated civilization, the Maya people and their culture demonstrated extraordinary resilience. Their story did not end with the fall of their last independent city. Instead, it transformed, adapting and persisting into the modern era. Many Maya villages, often remote from the direct authority of colonial powers, continue to manage their own affairs, preserving core aspects of their traditional way of life. The basic Mesoamerican diet of maize and beans remains central, with agricultural output even improving with the introduction of steel tools. Traditional crafts, such as weaving, ceramics, and basketry, persisted, as did community markets and local trade networks. Crucially, Maya beliefs and languages proved remarkably resistant to change, despite concerted efforts by Catholic missionaries. The ancient 260-day Tzolk'in ritual calendar, a cornerstone of their complex timekeeping system, is still used in modern Maya communities in the highlands of Guatemala and Chiapas today. The persistence of Maya culture, language, and traditions for centuries after the Spanish conquest demonstrates an extraordinary resilience and adaptability. This challenges the notion of a complete fall and highlights their continuous cultural survival. While the grand political structures of the classic period may have collapsed, and the Spanish conquest was indeed devastating, the fundamental cultural elements, their agricultural practices, crafts, languages, and specific calendar uses endured. This illustrates that Maya civilization, at its most fundamental level, was not destroyed, but transformed and adapted, offering a more nuanced and hopeful perspective on their history. Today, the descendants of the ancient Maya, collectively known as the Maya, number well over 6 million individuals. They speak more than 28 surviving Mayan languages and continue to reside in nearly the same geographical area as their ancestors, a living testament to a civilization that refused to vanish. The story of the Maya is far from over. It is a dynamic and evolving narrative, constantly being rewritten by the tireless work of archaeologists. New discoveries continue to unveil previously unknown scales of their civilization and reshape our understanding. Recent archaeological breakthroughs have been particularly illuminating. For instance, an ancient Maya city named Los Abuelos, the grandparents, nearly 3,000 years old, was recently unearthed in northern Guatemala. This middle pre-classic site features pyramids, monuments, and a unique canal system, confirming its significance as an important ceremonial center. Another newly found city, Petnal, boasts a 108-foot tall pyramid with remnants of murals. One of these new sites, also includes an astronomical complex with buildings precisely positioned to record solstices and equinoxes, further underscoring the Maya's advanced understanding of the cosmos. Technological advancements are revolutionizing the field. Laser technology, specifically LiDAR, light detection and ranging, is now being used to penetrate the dense jungle canopy, revealing thousands of previously hidden structures and entire cities that were once invisible from the ground. For example, LiDAR has uncovered a hidden Mexican city with 6,600 secret structures and previously unknown urban triangles. This continuous stream of major archaeological discoveries highlights that our understanding of the Maya is not static, but constantly evolving. The use of LiDAR demonstrates that the jungle has preserved vast amounts of information, meaning that the secrets of a lost civilization are actively being uncovered, making the Maya story a living, dynamic field of study rather than a closed book. It suggests that the true scale and complexity of their civilization might still be underestimated. Even as new discoveries shed light on the Maya, numerous profound mysteries continue to captivate and challenge researchers, ensuring the civilization maintains its allure as a lost and enigmatic culture. The sacred waters of the cenotes, these natural sinkholes revered by the Maya, contain countless artifacts and even human remains, suggesting complex ritual practices. While archaeologists have recovered many offerings, the full extent and meaning of these ancient ceremonies remain unclear. The agricultural innovation mystery. Despite their sophisticated agricultural methods, it remains a puzzle how the ancient Maya achieved such consistently high crop yields in challenging environments without modern tools, a feat that modern farming often struggles to replicate in similar regions. The calendar conundrum. While much of the Maya calendar's basic structure has been decoded, how their astronomers achieved such precise astronomical observations and predictions of solar eclipses and Venus cycles without modern instruments continues to be debated. Their astronomical knowledge was not matched for centuries in other parts of the world. The stone mask enigma. The discovery of elaborate jade masks in royal Maya tombs reveals sophisticated craftsmanship and complex symbolic patterns. The full ritual significance of these intricately carved artifacts and their role in royal succession remains an area of ongoing study. The lost codex connection. The few surviving Maya codices contain references that suggest connections to undiscovered books. Researchers continue to search for these lost manuscripts, hoping they might unlock further secrets of Maya history and knowledge. The acoustic enigma. Several ancient Maya structures produce unusual acoustic phenomena that continue to puzzle scientists. For example, the Great Pyramid at Chichen Itza creates a chirping echo reminiscent of their sacred Quetzal bird, while other sites demonstrate remarkable sound projection capabilities, hinting at an advanced understanding of acoustics. These specific mysteries demonstrate that despite significant progress, fundamental aspects of Maya life, technology, and belief remain opaque. This reinforces the secrets aspect of the civilization's story and provides a compelling reason for continued research and public interest. It highlights that the lost aspect isn't just about physical ruins, but about lost knowledge and understanding that still awaits discovery. The journey through the rise and fall of the Maya civilization reveals a story of unparalleled human ingenuity, profound cultural depth, and remarkable resilience. From their humble beginnings as agricultural communities, influenced by the enigmatic Olmec, they ascended to a golden age characterized by monumental cities, a complex political landscape of warring city-states, and extraordinary intellectual achievements in mathematics, astronomy, and writing. Their intricate calendar systems, the revolutionary concept of zero, and their precise celestial observations stand as eternal testaments to their advanced knowledge. The fall of the classic Maya, however, was not a singular, sudden collapse, but a complex, multifaceted process. It was a systemic breakdown influenced by a confluence of environmental degradation from overpopulation, prolonged droughts, intensified warfare, and political instability. This period serves as a powerful reminder of the inherent fragility of highly specialized and interconnected societies when confronted with compounding stressors. Yet, it is crucial to understand that this was a transformation, a shift in power and population, rather than a complete disappearance. The Maya people, their languages, and many of their traditions endured the Spanish conquest and persist vibrantly to this day, numbering over 6 million individuals. Their cultural survival is a testament to extraordinary resilience. Furthermore, the secrets of this remarkable civilization are continuously being unveiled through the tireless work of archaeologists, empowered by new technologies like LiDAR, which reveal the true, underestimated scale of their ancient cities. While many mysteries still remain, from the sacred rituals of the cenotes to the precise mechanics of their agricultural innovations and the full meaning of their artistic expressions, they only serve to deepen our fascination. The Maya remind us that even the most brilliant civilizations are subject to the forces of nature and human conflict. Yet, their legacy lives on, a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and the enduring mysteries that lie buried beneath the jungle canopy, waiting for us to listen to their whispers from the past.